The Awdry family is delighted to be able to mark the centenary of the thin clergyman's birth with the publication of this book. The Fat Controller wanted to celebrate the occasion too, and quickly made her own plans. What were they? Turn the pages to find out. The author. 2011. Boy, let me tell you something. It was sure one heck of a year for everyone. India won the Cricket World Cup, the final Harry Potter movie came out, and a serious tsunami happened in Japan. Along with the television series was going through its weakest era and airing the 15th season. Yep, it definitely had its ups and downs, and yet the world felt so different back then compared to the world we live in now. But of course, that's not what we're concentrating on. Our adventure really begins at the station when Gordon was picking up his express train, when a mysterious voice appeared out of nowhere.
Hello, Gordon. It's been a while. You still remember who we are?
Listen, I'm not in the mood for guessing games. I'm already running a bit late and... Wait a minute. I do remember that voice. Gordon looked the other way and couldn't believe who he was seeing. It was the Railcar twins, Pip and Emma. He used to be jealous of them for how fast they could go when they were visiting Soldor. But they became friends when they finally met. But that was a very long time ago, and he was very pleased to see them again after all these years. Well, bust my buffers! Pip and Emma! I don't believe my eyes! How are you two?
We're doing really good, Gordon. We know that this railway has changed over the years.
That's for sure. So many years have passed to the point that technology seems to be changing the world. Anyway, what are you two doing here?
That's a very good question.
Standing on the platform was the latest generation of the controllers, Miss Topham Hatt. She was given the suit and hat from the previous controller when he was going to retire. Now she's the head of the railway, making sure things continue running like clockwork and trying to make things better, along with being the first female controller of the railway as well.
I bought Pip and Emma from the other railway, and I believe they can be very helpful for this railway. I'm going to ride with them in a bit to see how they run and how fast they can be on the rails as well. Does that make sense to you?
Well, sure, but I'm still a bit confused on why you bought them to work on this island.
Well, as time went on for the past few decades, you've been given more extra time just to pick up the express. That makes the timetables go slow, and we need to speed things up on picking up the express and getting to the stations on time again like the old days.
Meaning that you just saved so much to the point your parts wouldn't work as much as they used to. So it's meant to let an engine was still working like clockwork and not let anything go, using and delaying him.
That is correct. So you'll just let them take care of the job for you from now on.
Oh, I see. I never thought this would happen, and I didn't know this day would actually arrive. What will happen to me?
Don't worry, you're still going to pull the express today. I'm going to put them into a test to see how fast they can run, and then I'll figure some stuff out.
Oh, good. Whew. Thank you, ma'am.
No problem. Now you better get moving. The express can't be running late again.
Gordon agreed and set off with the express, but he couldn't get the idea out of his head and continued wondering what will happen when the day comes. Meanwhile, Miss Topham Hatt walked up to the Railcar twins and asked them if they were ready to do their test.
Oh, yes, ma'am. We will let you down.
Good, now let's see how fast you can really be on this railway.
So she climbed into the coach, and the twins started their test. Everything was running very smoothly and surprised the engines who were passing by. They didn't get the news about Pip and Emma coming back to the island. The twins were going really fast and made it to the station where Thomas was at. They screeched to a complete stop, and Miss Topham Hatt was impressed.
Not bad, girls. We're right on time, and wait a minute. Actually, we're just a bit early. Now I'm even more impressed with you two. This plan of mine is better than I thought.
Thank you, ma'am. We told you we will let you down.
Miss Topham Hatt chuckled and was about to tell them to continue their test when Thomas started talking to them. Well, this is one way to start your morning. How are you two? It's been too long since I've last seen you girls.
Hello, Thomas. It's great to see you too. We're doing well, and happy staying. But we're staying under Wheeling for good now.
Really? You mean our controller just bought you from the other railway?
Yes, Thomas, it does.
Well, dang. Is there any reason why she did? Before they can answer, Miss Topham Hatt interrupted.
I'm sorry, Thomas, but we have to continue for their test to see how they do with the other stations. You can talk to them later tonight if you get a chance to see them. Is that all right?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Now back to work, please, and let's continue your test. Girls.
So the twins set off again, and Thomas watched until they were out of sight. Huh. I wonder why Miss Topham Hatt bought them. We don't need any more express trains. Oh well, I better get moving. Thomas was in a very happy mood today while taking care of his job. Annie and Clarabelle were following behind him with glee. Everything was running very nicely, but when they got to the bridge, Thomas spotted a big white spot sitting on the tracks. Hey, driver, what is that ahead of us?
It looks like a big pile of newspapers, so I think we have nothing to worry about.
But he was wrong. When they got closer, the pile started to move and came out with a long neck and a yellow beak. Whoa, Nilly! Thomas immediately came to a stop, just in time.
What's the matter, Thomas?
That's no pile of newspapers, driver. That seems to be a swan. And indeed it was. In front of them was an injured swan, and it was badly hurt. His driver and fireman climbed out of him and took a closer look.
This swan must have hit something that caused its wings be in bad condition. We must take it to the next station. They'll know what to do. Help me take it in Thomas's cab, fireman.
When they carefully picked up the swan, it tried to fly away, but couldn't with the hurt wing. They held onto the swan as tight as they could, but not too tight, and were able to put the swan down in Thomas's cab. The swan didn't bother to jump out of him, but stayed in one of the corners while the fireman pulled out his phone to call the station master. The driver carefully put his coat on it to make sure it was more comfortable.
There we go. We'll see what to do with you when we get to the station.
When Thomas made it to the station master checked the swan out and told the crew what's going to happen.
I'll call the inspector to pick it up and take it to the vet so they can take good care of it.
And that's what he did, and the inspector immediately arrived and took the swan to the vets. Thomas was pleased that the swan was going to be taken care of, but he also felt sorry for it and can't imagine the pain it was going through the whole time. A week has passed, and the swan was fully recovered and strong enough to fly again. The vet met Thomas and let the swan go. They watched as the swan flew away above the river. That night at the sheds, Thomas told them all about the swan, and the engines were amazed with it. I'm glad that the swan wasn't on a different set of rails. Then there would have been serious trouble and sadness going around. Everyone fully agreed and congratulated him. Even Gordon was pleased with him. He wanted to tell them about what Miss Topham had told him, but he decided to stay silent till further notice. Pip and Emma were getting more used to being the express engines on Sodor. They pulled the express all the way to London and back to Sodor every day and on time because of how fast they are. However, the weather has been frosty recently, So when they stop at the stations, they have to put on their brakes early, and it always works. But until the weather gets better, everyone has to be careful when they're working. The Scottish twins, Donald and Douglas, have been taking turns taking the ballast to the miniature railway, and James has to help the workmen fixing up a line where it's being repaired because it was bent from the heat not too long ago. But they have to be careful with the frosty rails as well. But one day, there was trouble. After Douglas finished his run, he was uncoupled from the trucks and puffed away. But the switches were jammed, so he went to the line where the buffers were. Donald immediately saw it ahead of him and tried to put on the brakes, but the frosty rails made him continue going. "Sweet mother of Miss Topham Hat!" He closed his eyes and crashed right into the buffers. Luckily, no one was hurt, but the buffers were broken and Donald was nearly off the tracks. He was embarrassed with the mess and was worried what Miss Topham Hat would say. The next day he was at the sheds and was more embarrassed. The engines teased him and laughed about it too.
"What's the matter, Donald? Always having bad luck crashing into stuff? And I thought crashing into the signal box was bad enough."
Oi! At least I didn't have a serious accident while pulling the famous flying kipper.
"You better take that back or else you're going to get it."
Oh, ho, 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 ho. Lo siento, amigo, for not calling you old square wheels.
"Old square wheel? Oh, that does it. I'm gonna..."
That's enough, both of you.
There stood Miss Topham Hat. She had seen enough with the argument.
If you continue fighting like this, then I'll send you to a factory you definitely won't like to be in. Am I clear?
Yes, Mom. Sorry, Mom.
We won't have another argument again.
Good. And keep it that way. Now, Donald, I've come here to let you know that crashing into the buffers wasn't your fault. It was that darn frost that was on the rails. But the signalman should have checked before you began working. I told him that if he screws up again like the signalmans did in the past, I would fire him and find a better worker to replace him, and those buffers were getting a bit too old and needed an upgrade anyway. So I guess it's a good thing you crashed into them.
Well, I'm happy to note that it was a happy accident. So does that mean I can get back to work?
I'm sorry, but I'll need you to go to the steamworks in case that crash damaged some of your parts. I can't let a damaged giant continue working and end up getting worse.
But who will be doing my jobs while I'm there?
Don't worry, I already got Douglas to do the ballast jobs for you until you get back. I'm sure he'll do a decent job and get them done while you're away. Are you okay with that?
Yes, Mom! I know my brother and I trust him doing the job for me.
Wonderful! Now off to the steamworks, please.
So Donald left the sheds and did as he was told. A couple of days later, Douglas was taking care of the ballast while James was waiting for his load to get ready so he could take them to the melted rails. Hello, James. I heard that the rails are nearly complete. It sure is, Douglas. I'm just ready for it to be done by tomorrow. Well, what are you gonna do after it's complete? Hopefully I can pull the express again. I just want everyone to continue looking at my shiny red paint that shines in the sun. Gee, sorry that I asked. At least you can get to do that tomorrow. So don't get impatient with the workers. Oh, don't worry about that. I'm sure I can handle it. I'm just excited to get back to doing what I'm good at. Just then, Douglas's firemen uncoupled him from his truck so he can do the other jobs. Well, I better get going. I don't want to let Miss Topham Hat nor my brother down by not doing anything. Alright, see you around, Douglas. They whistled goodbye to each other and he set off. But he didn't look at the tracks ahead of him. He went the wrong way and was heading towards the buffers. The workmen had been painting it and saw him coming towards them. Before Douglas knew it, he wasn't to stop on time and ran right into the freshly painted buffers. The buffers were in pieces. Wet paint splattered onto Douglas, and he was halfway off the rails. The workman was furious, and the foreman lost patience.
You silly engine! You ruined our hard work. It took us 3 days to get us to paint it. 3 days!
Douglas felt more embarrassed than Donald did when he broke the old buffers. Luckily, James was waiting for his trucks when it happened, so he had the time to help Douglas back onto the rails. When Douglas got back on the rails, James decided to make a joke. Well, Douglas, now you know how Donald felt when he did the same thing, don't you? But Douglas didn't laugh about it. He stayed silent and thought of what Miss Topham Hatt would say. He soon found out later that night at the sheds. She was not happy with him and looked very cross.
I'm not happy with you, Douglas. The foreman told me everything and the rails aren't very frosty anymore, so I know that this is on you. It's a good thing that Donald is nearly done being at the steamworks, otherwise this would have caused some serious confusion and delay.
Douglas didn't say anything. His cheeks were as red as the paint that's been on him after the wreck.
Just a reminder, really useful engines do as they are told. They pay attention to their job and get them done. Don't disappoint me again, or else I'm going to be even more upset with you and figure out what to do with you and your brother. Now, go to the steamworks first thing in the morning so they can get the paint off you and fix your damaged parts, and don't make the same mistake again.
And she walked away, leaving Douglas very embarrassed and ashamed to himself. Henry wanted to tease him, but he decided not to after how his teasing went to Donald. Douglas now knows that he needs to watch where he's going, or else he's going to be in serious trouble if he does it one more time. Now that Pip and Emma are in charge of pulling the express to London and back, Miss Topham Hatt took down all the water towers on the line they use because they're electric diesels. They don't need fuel at all, only solar panels to get them full battery power. Gordon was surprised that this would happen to the line he used to take, so he spoke with the twins about it. We steam engines have to use water to keep us going. Without it, we'd be stuck on the rails like statues. So it really surprises me that Miss Topham Hatt would take down all of those water towers from the line that I used to take. It's disgraceful.
Gordon, the reason why she took them down is because we don't really need them. We're electric, so we don't need water at all. We use solar panels and electric wheels to help us recharge.
Gordon was impressed. He still wishes he could just go back to his younger days.
I do have a question. Does the other railway have electric trains too? Like, do they pull regular coaches instead of what you have?
Something like that? Some of those electrics are like regular engines.
That got Henry amused for a while, but Gordon still wasn't impressed with the changes that's happening. While Gordon missed going to London every once in a while, he does enjoy his slow pacing and stopping at every station. It felt really relaxing, and he had zero worries about breaking down again. But one day, however, Gordon was being delayed due to one of the other stations having trouble. So he had to wait by the bridge till he gets the OK sign. He waited and waited till suddenly he could see a guy running towards him. That's weird. He looks like he's in trouble. Indeed, he was in trouble. When he got close to Gordon and his crew, he was panting and catching his breath.
Help! There's a fire close by!
Gordon's driver climbed down and let the guy show him what he means. And he was right. Under the bridge was his tractor and a flatbed of haystacks. But one of them was off the flatbed and was on fire.
I was able to pull it out on time when it started catching on fire.
But how did it catch on fire in the first place?
I was having a nice smoke on top of them when I was taking a break, and some of the hot ashes landed on that hay, and now it's getting worse.
Did you call the fire department before you came to us?
I haven't yet, but I'm about to.
So he pulled out his phone and called for help. but the fire was getting thicker and close to the haystack. Gordon was worried about it causing a serious wildfire when he suddenly had an idea. "Why don't we use some of the water from my water tank to pour it out, like how Thomas and Percy did with that time with the burning building?"
That's a great idea, Gordon. I'll hook up the hose from your cab into your tank.
And in no time, the firemen immediately sprayed some of Gordon's water and the fire was out. The tractor driver was very pleased and thanked them for getting rid of the fire. Just then, the fire crew arrived to take care of the fire, but the tractor driver stopped them.
I'm sorry guys, but these guys stopped the fire just in time. Without them, the fire would probably have gone worse. Well, thank goodness someone stepped in and did the job for us. Great job, lads. You've saved the island from a nasty wildfire. Now tell us, how did this fire start?
While the tractor driver was explaining to the fire crew and was probably going to get in trouble for doing what he did, Gordon was feeling very proud of himself and felt like a hero. When Miss Topham Hatt got the news, she was very happy for Gordon and had the fire crew recommend him for the Queen's Fire Service Medal. The water towers from his old line may be gone, but it's a good thing there's still plenty for him to take in case another fire happens and he was able to help. That made him a really useful engine. On an early June morning, Miss Topham Hatt was at the sheds for an important announcement. The engines were wondering what her announcement could be, because it seemed to be serious. They found out when she spoke.
As we know, the man who helped this railway become more popular a long time ago passed away 14 years ago, and I want to honor him as a birthday gift because he would have been 100 years old this month.
The engines couldn't believe their eyes. They forgot how old he was when he was alive. But now they know with a man who would have been that old.
With this auspicious occasion, I wanted it to be very special. I've ordered a special gift that will remind us of who the Reverend was, and I've asked an important person to come for the tribute, and she said yes. So not only do I want this as a special tribute to Reverend Wibbert Awdry, but to this island as well. His birthday will be in 2 weeks, so I don't want any goofing around while we're marking plans for the tribute and decorating this station as well. Do I make myself clear, everyone?
The engines agreed and got very excited. They wondered what the tribute would be like, and what she ordered to honor the Reverend.
Now, onto your jobs. James, you will be picking up the gift that I ordered from the other railway when it's complete and bring it back here. Pip and Emma, you will be picking up the special visitor for the tribute. The rest of you, please do your regular jobs to make sure the railway runs like clockwork.
The engines said yes, and puffed away to do their jobs. A couple of days later, the birthday gift was finished, and James picked it up and was coming back from the other railway. The gift he was pulling was covered, so he had no idea what it could be. But he was very excited to find out. Everything went well till the tunnels were in front of him. When James spotted them, he put on its brakes and came to a stop. The tunnels collapsed, and no one can pass through them now. So James's driver called for the construction crew to check it out. When Miss Topham Hatt got the news, she postponed all runs to the other railway or anywhere else that got through the tunnels till further notice. But for the passengers, Bertie and his friends had to take them from Sodor to the other railway and then back again. They didn't mind doing the jobs for the engines because they want to show that they are really useful buses and want to prove that they can do an express engine's job just as well as a bus job. Gordon and Thomas were at the sidings doing nothing because they were taking a long break from doing their jobs this morning. I can't believe this would happen at such a bad timing. Just a couple of weeks before the tribute happens, and trouble is already happening. Calm down, Gordon. The construction crew will fix the issue before the day arrives. I've known Jack and the Pack for a long time, and they understand how much this means for everyone. You're right, Thomas. I guess I'm worried for the twins who are now in charge of my old line after my retirement on taking the express to the other railway. If I were still in charge of it, then I'd be a mess and would complain about it non-stop till it's fixed. Boy, would that be a mess for me. Wait. Retirement? That's why they've been running the line instead of you now? Oh, dang. I didn't tell you, didn't I? No. What's even going on? Now I'm the one who's getting confused. Well, you see, my parts won't work the same way as they used to for the last few decades, and Miss Topham Hatt knows that it's time for me to just do the little things now, so I don't keep breaking down and falling apart when I have to go super fast just to be on time, like I used to. So she bought Pip and Emma from the other railway, and they've been working on this island ever since. That's why you don't see me taking the express train anymore and doing the small express now. I don't believe this. I thought the twins started working with us because they knew we have a lot more passengers than we used to. I'm very sorry for all the teasing I did to you from the past. I didn't know that this day would come. How would everyone react to knowing that the one of the very first engines to work on this island is now going to retire, and we might never see you again? I don't believe this is happening. Whoa there, Thomas. Whoa, calm down. I'm not retiring because I'm dying. I'm just at the point where I can't do the big things anymore. Really? You're not leaving us? Heavens, no. I'm just like Edward by being old and reliable. As long as I'm continuing to work on this island, I'm sure I'll be just fine. I guess you can say that it's time for the bigger engines to do the small things while you small engines do the big things. I wouldn't say that. I guess I'm just surprised to realize that this whole new change happened to the point I'm overreacting to this. I'm very sorry for doing that. That's alright. I was surprised myself when Miss Topham Hatt and the twins told me what was going to happen. Well, I guess it's a good thing I wasn't there to overhear that. Otherwise, I probably would have gotten myself into a serious conversation with our controller. The two engines laughed and Thomas realized that his next run was going to start. Well, I better get back to work. I don't want the passengers to get impatient with me. Alright, good luck with the rest of your day. They whistled goodbye and he was back to work. By the time the day of the tribute came, the tunnels were removed from the tracks so the engines could go to the other railway again. Pip and Emma raced to the other railway to pick up the very important visitor, while Miss Topham Hatt was making sure the station was ready for the big day. The engines were waiting for the rail car twins to arrive, and there were so many people waiting as well. But then they heard a horn. They knew who it was. Pip and Emma came to a slow stop at the station. Then everyone heard the door open and saw who the important visitor was. It was the Queen of England herself, Elizabeth II. Everyone cheered and the engines whistled for her. The last time she was visiting Sodor was back in the early 1950s. So it was great for her to finally come back and see the island again.
Well, this is a very nice surprise to see her again after a long time. But I thought the royal engine would take her this time.
I think she's busy pulling William and Kate around since they got married 2 months ago.
Ah, that explains a lot of the railcar twins doing it instead.
Miss Topham Hatt welcomed her and then silenced everyone. She had an important speech to give them.
Back in 1806, this land was found and started to become a railway and got a lot more extended as time passed by. But then my great-great-grandfather became the first ever controller to run this railway. Ever since, all the generations of my family became the controllers themselves. But from what my grandfather told me as a kid, the Reverend Awdry came here with his family as a holiday and really liked what he saw and asked my great-grandfather permission to write true stories on what happened. When he said yes, Awdry immediately wrote some of the true stories and read them to his son Christopher when he was sick in bed with measles. With his wife, Margaret, and the permission of my great-grandfather to publish the first ever book with 4 stories in them, they grabbed a lot of attention from many readers and started making this land more popular. Then in 1984, Riddlecraft created the television show that made this land even more popular than it already was. From the story about Edward being used again after a long time, to Thomas having his own branch line, to knowing what the narrow gauge really is to what we're doing today. I wanted to be the next controller of this railway since I was just a little girl and showed my feather that I know how to control this railway and make sure the engines are being really useful. When it was time for me to take charge, I swore to my family name that I will do what the previous generations did and make sure things are on time and make this railway better than what it was. The first female controller on this railway, I think it's best that we give our honors to the man who helped this railway become popular. Without him, this land would have probably gone bankrupt and most of the engines would have been scrapped.
The engines didn't say anything. They didn't even want to think about what would have happened of being scrapped.
To celebrate his 100th birthday, I had sculptors from England to make this as a special birthday gift and I know he would have loved it.
She pulled the cloak off the gift and everyone was speechless. It was a sculpture of the Reverend Wilbur Awdry, and at the bottom it said, "Without whom none of Thomas and his friends' adventure would have been told."
This will be a reminder that he was a very special friend to my family and the engines as well. I know that he and my 2 great-grandfathers would have been very proud of what this land has become today and how my feather controlled it and how I'm controlling it now. And be put right here for everyone to look and read it. I will continue making this railway better and have the engines do as they are told. They've been really useful engines to my family since the very beginning. No matter how old they are, they will always be really useful engines.
The engines blew their whistles while the audience cheered. Thomas and his friends went through a lot of adventures over the years, but they always get the job done and are really useful engines. And I think we can all agree that there will never be anything like the Fat Controller's Railway.
It's Thomas the Tank Engine, hip 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 hooray. Chugga chugga chug chug chuff chuff chuff, he rides along the way. And when you hear that whistle, it can only be one train. Our favorite little engine, Thomas is his name. Thomas the Tank Engine rolling along. All of his friends will be coming along. Thomas, we love you. He's a really useful engine with a heart that's big and strong. He chugga chugga chuff chuffs, working hard, helping everyone. Thomas, he has lots of friends and you can be one too. Just clap 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 and sing along. Thomas, we love you. Thomas the Tank Engine rolling along. All of his friends will be coming along. Thomas, we love you. There's Gordon and Henry, Edward, James and Toby, Annie and Clarabelle, PERCY, Terence and Bertie, Hazel, Duck and Daisy, lots more friends for you. He's always up to mischief, that cheeky little train. He chugga chugga chuff chuffs everywhere, he's always playing games. The Fat Controller scolds him, but he loves him just the same. Our favorite little engine, Thomas is his name. Thomas the Tank Engine rolling along.
It is done. It is finally done. All 42 Railway Series books are finally completed. Yes! Now I can move on and... Well, hello there. I didn't expect to see you here. How'd you like it? It was definitely worth the long wait, huh? But does that mean I'm done making Thomas content? No. Far from that. However, I want to say thank you. Thank you so much for sticking around and waiting for me to complete all of these Railway Series books for the past 4 years. Or at least 3.5, to say at least. And, in the words of Dr. Seuss, don't be sad because it's over. Be happy because it happened. So I think we should be all grateful that it was nice having them be in the making while it lasted. I'll explain everything about what's going to happen in an update video right after this, okay? So, I don't know what to tell you, what to do now, so yeah, just wait for the update video for me to explain everything. Yeah. Okay, I guess I better get out of here before I make things even more awkward, huh? I'm LT100, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.